All right, thank you for this time and opportunity. Equality Utah, I've been a champion of them for quite a while, and they impact me personally and they impact me politically. It's given a voice to people that are scrambling to find a voice and maybe the unheard as well in this state. So it's important to give them the kudos and the congrats that they deserve. We've come a very long way in such a short amount of time. I was originally born in Utah and moved to New York about 10, 12 years ago, and just recently moved back, but a lot happened during that time, and I'll just give you a little brief recap of what's been going on with me. Well, I grew up a very devout member of the Mormon Church, Cub Scouts, Boy Scouts, Seminary Council, Institute Council, but there was something different about me, and I couldn't quite figure that out. And this attraction I had to men, was it admiration? Was everyone this way and no one talks about it, or am I the only one? So I just kind of kept that on the back burner, I guess, so to speak. And on my mission, I saw porn for the first time on a bishop's computer, and it turned out to be gay porn because it turns out the bishop or his wife forgot to clear the internet history. Yeah. But when I saw what I saw, I realized at that moment, it was just incredibly clear to me that all this internal torture and conflict I've been fighting with since I was in grade school was summed up to be like my worst nightmare. I was gay, and now that was a reality. It was clear to me then, since I can remember, that the leaders of the church I belonged to considered gays to be sexual deviants. The homosexuals stand as a mockery to the plan of salvation, and Satan has a stronghold on the people who have created this evil thing called the gay agenda. And I remember shortly after coming out, actually, a cousin of mine from Idaho, bless her little heart, asked me over Thanksgiving dinner how I was doing with my gay agenda. And so I said, well, you know, I get up at about midnight out of my coffin, and then I go strolling around to find some innocent straight people on the corner, and if I can't find enough people to feed on, I go buy some True Blood at 7-Eleven and crawl back in my coffin until the next day. And she just did not get that at all, but whatever. But to me, the gay agenda was poisoning the minds of children and deteriorating the family. And it was evident to me as I heard and read the scores of conference talks and books and articles and policies that had been and continued to be written and spoken by a multiplicity of church prophets and apostles throughout all the decades. The adjectives and the tones may have changed over the years, especially recently, but the purpose has not. There is no room for openly gay children, openly gay missionaries, or openly gay couples in the church. Homosexuality is wrong, period. So after returning from my mission, I sought out clarification from my spiritual leader about my spiritual crisis, and my bishop insisted to me that I wasn't gay, and that he strongly advised me not to even identify with that. He recommended that I participate in an ex-gay therapy process that included a one-on-one counseling session through LDS Family Services, and participating in a group therapy, which included firesides and pamphlets and books and expert testimonials, and all summed up that change was possible, whether in this life or the next, and that the love and sexual relationship between two members of the same sex was simply a struggle akin to alcoholism or a drug addiction or an illness like cancer. It was during this process, and hindsight's 2020, but this was a very powerful thing. During this process, my identity as a gay man was removed from me, and instead, I was simply a Latter-day Saint who struggled with a disease, an abnormality called same-gender attraction. I was told to date women, to disclose my status when things got serious, so it's like an STD, but you can't catch it, you know? Like, don't worry, I'm under treatment, everything's fine. But it is biological, so. But I was told if I held true to my church and its leaders and the standards, that one way or another the struggle would end or diminish at the very least, and that the joys of having a family and raising children could still possibly be had in this life, if even only by a select successful few from the program. I was told that the word gay is a verb and a social construct, and someone is only gay because of their homosexual behavior. So after 2 long years of mental gymnastics, and not much having improved by the way of my prognosis, in fact, it kind of gotten worse, because after having hot flashes every time I saw my trainer at the gym, my so-called male bonding therapy really wasn't much of a therapy than it was a fraternal healing or masculine bond. It was actually creating a deeper and much-needed yearning to be in his arms again. But when it was clear to me that nothing had changed or improved for me or anyone else that I'd met in the process, I decided to leave the therapy altogether and to take a different path to happiness and date someone I was attracted to inside and out. However, neither of us were out, and both of us referred to our struggle as this thing between us, that we weren't gay, but we would sit next to each other at the movies, but we wouldn't sit next to each other at the movies, but we would share the same bed. A lot of things to happen over the course of 6 months, but we tried the best we could given the circumstances we had with our families, our friends, and the stigma and the fear that we attempted to keep at bay from eroding our connection. That all came to a screeching halt when at work I received an email from his brother that Brent had passed away in his sleep from a heart attack. His brother only knew me as a friend, and he had never met me in person, and said the funeral would be in Oklahoma, where he grew up, gave me an address if I would like to send a letter. My world was shattered, and I felt helpless. I felt hopeless. I couldn't attend the funeral. His parents had no idea who I was. My family, friends, and employer had no idea I was in a relationship with him. And I struggled to make sense of this all. What had I done? What was I supposed to do? Should I go to my temple and do his work? Should I strike a deal with God to forgive Brent of the wrongdoing? If I promise to obey every minute of his will for the rest of my life, I'll even go on another mission. And so with nowhere and no one else to turn to, I revisited the situation with my bishop. And he could tell I was very shaken and upset and emotional. I explained what happened. I felt completely lost and at odds with my circumstance. And I told him I needed spiritual guidance to figure out what I could do about all this. His response was critical to me becoming the man I am today. He told me that Brent was taken from me because I'm a Latter-day Saint and a holder of the priesthood, and that I should have known better than to be in a homosexual relationship. He went on to say that this would only make my struggle with same-sex attraction worse, since now I needed to begin the repentance process and explain in detail my sexual transgressions. It was in that moment that I realized he was wrong. I did not struggle with same-sex attraction. He does. I left my bishop's office and eventually confided in my mom, whose unconditional love and support was a huge help and a reason I'm here today. She told me that she regrets not being able to meet someone who meant so much to me and not to let that happen again. So I proceeded to start back on this road of healing on a different path with a wonderful licensed, unaffiliated therapist, unaffiliated with any church or unbiased toward any other organization, as therapists are supposed to take an oath to be. Through this process, I realized my church leaders and other therapists through that had worked very hard to distinguish members of the LGBT community from the members of the church who were gay, lesbian, bisexual, and transgender by removing their identity as such, and instead creating a subversive remedy calling it same-gender attraction or gender confusion, the kind of terms I would expect to be used by self-trained clinicians in the dark ages. I soon discovered my church leaders were hiring attorneys and lobbyists to create religious and moral objections to passing legal and equal rights and benefits for LGBT non-members of their church. The conclusions I made in my youth about the acceptance and non-acceptance of LGBT families was confirmed again. And even when the church updated their policy about gay parents and their children and their salvation, I wasn't surprised and I wasn't angry. I didn't throw mud or desecrate what other people feel that are holy. I just simply realized they clearly put their line in the sand. I realized my identity doesn't belong to a church. My identity belongs to me. My name on a membership roll doesn't belong in my family's eternal hopes. It belongs to me. My membership in an organization is worth something to me. And just like any organization I belong to, if I'm not being understood, if I'm not being valued, and if my own happiness or someone in my family is being treated by the efforts of an organization negatively, then I have the right, the duty, and the dignity to remove myself from their name, from their list of members on their organization. It gave me the courage to do so, this whole process, and share my story, not necessarily speaking ill of church leaders, but holding them accountable for the things they say that impact our community. When I was told I was still loved despite my lifestyle choice, I can now say that religion is a lifestyle choice, and my sexual orientation isn't a choice, and who I love is not a lifestyle. For me, being a member of the human race carries an enormous responsibility and purpose for life. And each and every day I wake up, I'm grateful to have another day on earth with my now husband and create another chance of leaving the world a better place than I found it. I crossed paths with him about 3 years ago, and he's brought back the full force of the truest kind of love and excitement back into my life. All the elements of the fairy tale happened, except that I was the one meeting Prince Charming. So I moved back to Salt Lake City from New York. We got married with our families present, which I never thought would happen. Friends supporting us in our commitments because they truly believe in the slogan, family first, not bishop first, not church first, and not what the neighbors think first. And contrary to what I was told growing up, we all can participate in the joys of raising children if we want, but now I'm worried I might not be able to handle the diapers and the tantrums. But it's such a wonderful feeling to realize that today I'm legally married to someone I love, adore, and cherish. Something I never thought would happen and I never thought was possible. A love that is legal, not counterfeit, a love that is equal and real and taxable. Thank you. I'm gonna play a short little clip of my wedding and then play you guys a song I wrote.
There are those who believe they're the best thing that God ever made, and they think all that matters is the consequence after the grave. They're so sadly mistaken and so lost in the river that breaks them. Will they ever have strength to withstand? Will they bury their heads in the sand? Will they ever have the courage to take a stand? Stand up for something, for it all or for nothing. When in doubt, take a stand for you and for me. Stand up for something, and you'll see there ain't nothing that compares when you stand up for something, just stand up for what you believe, for what you believe, for what you believe, for what you believe.
So this was, after writing some of my Mormon music, this was the first song that I wrote that was a little bit more of a personal rock and roll driven type of song. This was the first song I wrote leaving my ex-gay therapy program. And we're realizing the world wasn't so black and white anymore. It's called Shades of Gray. I want out of this town, this rise to rough. I'm sick of this game, I've had more than enough. But something inside me tells me the way you are. You came along, we talked for a while, said you knew of the pain behind this fake smile. Yes, you said you can read my mind. Coming out tonight. Well, if I let you in, what risk do I take? What chance will this have? Will part of me break? Should I just retreat to the place where I've been before? And if you let me in, will I be slowing you down with your pride and your looks? Yes, you are getting around, and I know that you've got the same face that you've hit before. Get it out of my sight, out of my mind. See, she's a gray, I'm coming out tonight. Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. This last verse is dedicated to Bishop Robert Sterling from the Salt Lake City Fourth Ward, who told me that my same-gender attraction disorder was likely caused from being exposed to pornography as a child. In my household in South Florida would have been the Sears catalog. This is what I have to say to him. So the doctor says something got a terrible case. It must have been in the water or something you ate, but there's nothing that I can really do for you now. I said, excuse me, sir, and pardon me if I shout, but do you know what the fuck you are talking about? I don't think that you can read my mind. Get it out of my sight, out of my mind. These things are gray are coming out tonight. Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Get it out of my sight, yeah, out of my mind, my mind. These things are gray. Yeah, they're coming out tonight. Yes, they'll come on tonight. Come out with me tonight. Thank you.